You can turn 3 letters into an additional thousands of dollars that go into your bank account. Those 3 letters are the PMP, Project Management Professional. In this video, I'm sharing the only PMP exam 30-day study plan that you need so you can add those 3 fancy letters to your name and negotiate higher salaries for your next job opportunity. If we're just meeting for the first time, hi there, my name's Alvin. It's so nice to meet you. I'm an engineering project manager and I passed my PMP exam above target in all domains using this exact study plan that I'm about to reveal to you in a little bit. As a disclaimer, this video is not sponsored. I'm sharing the exact resources I used to pass my PMP exam. We'll divide this video into these sections: an overview of my exact PMP study plan, the exact strategies that I used to guarantee my PMP a success, the only resources you need to pass your PMP without feeling all the stress and overwhelm and frustration, and then we'll go through this study plan week by week and day by day until the day of your actual exam. And lastly, my friend, my secret strategy that I have never revealed before so you can become a certified PMP in the next 30 days. This video will be jam-packed, so please treat this like a masterclass and stay until the very end for my secret hacks. Before we begin, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage. Here's my cup of green tea, and let's go through this together. Now on the screen right here, I'm showing the calendar view of what my 30-day study plan looks like. Feel free to take a screenshot right here. If this looks overwhelming, don't worry, because I'll explain everything in detail step by step so you know exactly what to study and when you need to study it. Don't worry. Since I'm releasing this video on a Sunday, let's say that we start day 1 on Sunday, which means that day 30 would end 30 days later, which in our case is a Monday. Now you'll see something that's a little bit unique with my study plan. I color-coded each cell to reflect a certain time during the day. If it's a light orange color, then that means it's something that I'm studying in the morning before I go to work, okay? So that could be, 30 minutes to a full hour. And I've denoted this as AM for morning study time. Anything that's in the afternoon or has the word PM in front of it, I've color-coded that cell with a cyan/light bluish color. For studying during your breaks during your workday, well, I color-coded those cells with a bright purple color. And for any studying that's done at night, I've color-coded those cells with a darker purple color. Now, there are 4 important milestones that you need to be aware of, which I've highlighted that in yellow. And they are, first, completing your PMP course, submitting your PMP application, next, obtaining PMI's approval to schedule your exam, and lastly, the day of your actual PMP exam. And we'll cover more of this in detail later on in this video. Oh, and one other thing I've added here, every Saturday night, I've reserved that time to celebrate your quote-unquote wins from the week and to just treat yourself out, relax and recharge and rejuvenate. One famous quote that really inspired me is from Dolly Parton, who says this: "Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life." So yeah, take the time out of every week to relax, do something fun, and not think about your PMP exam. The more you recharge, guess what? The faster your mind will be when it comes to remembering what you're learning. As you and I both know, studying for the PMP exam can honestly just feel overwhelming and exhausting. When I was studying for it, I gave myself what I call treat nights, and I usually reserved Saturday nights to treat myself out, where it was either a date night with my then girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, or we'd eat at a local place that's one of our favorite food spots. So we could grab sushi, pizza, one of my favorites, Korean food, barbecue, hamburgers, the list goes on. So I intentionally put my treat days every weekend so that I had something to look forward to. With that said, let me explain my well-kept strategies that I used to make my PMP a guaranteed success, which I incorporated into my study plan to become a certified PMP. Some of these may not be applicable to you, so feel free to tailor this to fit your needs. The first strategy is my PMP exam study plan uses PrepCast and Pocket Prep, and we'll go over that in more detail. But there are many materials out there, and I honestly get asked this question quite a bit actually. As I've said before, this video is not sponsored. These are the main resources that I personally use and the ones that I recommend because it's what I used. You can substitute accordingly, but this is what worked for me. So if you decide to use something different than what I'm recommending, then customize your study plan to what you're using. Everything that I'm recommending can be checked out in the description box down below. The second strategy that helped guarantee my success to passing my PMP exam is that I committed to myself that I would study for at least 2 hours every weekday and then at least 4 hours each on Saturday and Sunday. And it's tough to do that, but you have to commit yourself. The reason why this will be such a game-changing factor to passing your exam is that, quite simply, success leaves clues. But you can only reach that success by taking practice questions consistently day in and day out. By its nature alone, your PMP exam is not a memorize facts and regurgitate definitions type of exam. It's not like a spelling bee, which I had to do back in middle school, right? It's not a spelling bee. Your PMP exam is designed to test how you would put yourself in the situation that's presented in the question. So if it's a predictive, agile, or hybrid question, putting yourself in the context and asking yourself, what would you do as a project manager next? Or what would be the best action that you would take if you were the project manager, right? So being able to answer those questions correctly every single time, it's not about memorizing facts. It's about understanding the concepts and applying your knowledge to those questions, putting yourself in that situation and applying what you learned. The minute that you change and you shift your mindset from trying to memorize every single detail that's from your PMP course or what's covered inside your PMBOK guide, that's the minute that you will slowly start to decipher what I call the matrix and easily pass your PMP exam. And wouldn't you want to pass your PMP without any struggles? The third strategy that I used is to diagnose yourself every day and understand your weaknesses. So my study plan, which we'll explore week by week in this video, is focused on studying practice questions and learning from those questions. It sounds simple, but it's not really that simple. You see, it's not enough to just answer practice questions, look at your score, see that you scored a 65% or 70%, and then move on to your next set of questions. This is how you get better. You have to actually diagnose yourself. See what questions you missed. Why did you miss them? Is it a topic that you're just not familiar with? What can you do to strengthen your knowledge in this area? Can you refresh yourself by reading a quick paragraph in the PMBOK guide? Ask yourself those questions. So if you encounter a question again in that domain, like in the people domain, you can apply the same logic to solve it correctly the next time. And after you start practicing a decent amount of questions, my friend, you're going to see a lot of trends slowly emerge. And you can quickly identify through the process of elimination which answer is obviously not correct, which one just doesn't make sense, and which two are the top contenders. And then it's just a matter of using your knowledge, your intuition, and your gut instinct to pick the best answer which makes the most sense. And usually, the one that makes the most sense to you and that sticks to your gut instinct of what you're feeling is right is the one that is the correct answer choice. That's a secret little hack that I've used, and if you just use that one strategy, you will pass your PMP exam. Aren't you glad you're watching this video? So don't worry, I got you covered here. By the way, if you're loving this video, then I have a free gift for you. If you'd like to pass your PMP exam on your first try, then sign up to my free PMP class at alvinthepm.com/bootcamp, and you'll learn how to solve PMP questions the fast and easy way, and you'll be one step closer to acing your PMP exam. Now, my bonus strategy is to tweak and optimize your schedule. Sounds easy, but this one little trick can easily make or break your success. You've probably heard of the 80-20 Pareto rule, am I right? 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So essentially, you want to do more of the 20% that will get you the big results. And to do that, we need to optimize our schedule. Now, I bet that you're a bit like me and you work a 9-to-5 schedule during your weekdays. Since we have day jobs, there's physically no way that we could study for 5 hours on a weekday, right? It's just physically impossible. So the strategy that I used was to wake up 30 minutes to 1 hour earlier than I normally wake up, which is before work. And I use that morning AM time slot to put in some studying, get those reps in. 30 minutes may not feel like a lot of time, but if you're truly focused and you're in the zone, committed to it, then you can get a lot done. And you'll see that here with my ideal weekday routine. I blocked out the time from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. to allow for work, commuting, spending time with the family for dinner, and of course, time with your kids if you do have kids. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., however, this is your hustle and your grind mode. These are the 2 dedicated hours I recommend to study for your PMP exam after work. If it's easier for you, then you can flip your schedule around 180 degrees and wake up even earlier and just do all of your studying in the morning, get it out of the way and just get it over with. But for me personally, my work starts at 7 a.m. and my commute could easily be 1 hour long due to the freeways and all the traffic here in California. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. and then study from 5 a.m. to roughly 6 a.m. And then I do my best to go to sleep around 10 p.m. What matters the most here is that you incorporate studying as a daily routine into your everyday schedule, whether it's before work, during your lunch, during the late evenings, whichever time slot works best for you. Quoting the author James Clear from his book Atomic Habits, small habits, when repeated consistently, lead to remarkable results. So build up the habits, and your habits will lead to your success. Now on the weekend, for Saturdays and Sundays, this is where you have much more flexibility with your time. As we'll talk about as we dive into our 30-day study plan, you want to study in the morning and in the afternoon. So you get a total of at least 4 hours on Saturday, and then another 4 hours of studying on Sunday. It's up to you with how you split up your time, but this is the very bare minimum I recommend. Again, the time you're spending here, that time is at 20% of your efforts, which will generate 80% of your results from the 80-20 Pareto rule. So you can see here, this is a very rigorous schedule. You're going to have to stay focused, very focused. Commit yourself to studying at least 2 hours every day. To be honest with you, yeah, it's going to feel overwhelming and it's going to feel tiring and exhausting. There will be days when you want to quit and you want to give up. But day by day, if you stick to this plan and you do it day by day, you will accomplish your PMP at the very end of these next 30 days. Have you ever heard the famous jingle, "What would you do for a Klondike bar?" For us, what would you do to earn your PMP certification? Now for 1 second, just imagine finally passing your PMP exam and earning that certificate, and finally landing that next job opportunity as a senior project manager or program manager. And because you already have a PMP certification, you might be able to negotiate a $10,000 or even a $15,000 salary increase. How would that feel? How would your life change? Just imagine it for 1 second. And once you pass your PMP, come back to this video and comment below to let me know you passed your PMP exam. I want to hear from you, and your words will encourage everyone else who's also studying for their PMP exam. Let's celebrate your wins right here. Let's go, because I believe in you. If you want me to make more videos to help you pass your PMP exam, comment the words "let's do this" in the comments below. That will be our secret handshake, so I know that you want me to create more videos like this. Now, the resources that I personally use to pass my PMP exam, and which form the entire foundation of this study plan, are as follows. To make it easy for your reference, you can check them out and sign up using my links in the description bar down below. For the PMP course that I used, I personally recommend PrepCast's PMP course and the simulator package. And the reason I say that is because PrepCast Simulator is the most robust PMP simulator I have ever used, period. It comes with 4 practice exam simulators with a total of more than 2,000 exam questions. From my experience, these simulators really help you practice how to solve situational based questions and to get into the thinking of what should a project manager do? What should a project manager do next? Or what is the best action to take as a project manager if you were the project manager in charge? So it really gets you into that mindset of solving these tough, really hard questions. And that's exactly what you need when you're trying to practice every day and you're applying what you've learned. And then PrepCast has a separate quiz bank that has more than 1,000 questions. Yeah, it's a lot. And honestly, you need the practice. As they say, practice makes perfect. What's also great about PrepCast is that you can purchase the bundled option, so you can get the PrepCast course, which comes with 35 hours of video-based training lessons, 25 agile and hybrid lessons, and then the 35 contact hour certificate to meet PMI's training requirements. It's very, very robust. I highly recommend getting the bundled option so you can access both the course and the simulator. And as I said before, I'll include links below for you to check them out. For books, there's actually only 2 that you need. Here's what I used. The first is the Agile Practice Guide. It's a very thin book. This is the Agile Practice Guide, and it contains pretty much everything you need to know about Agile that would be covered on your exam. It's a little over 100 pages. It's a very, very thin book, and it's super fast to read through. I personally read this cover to cover at least 2 to 3 times so I could build up my foundation inside of Agile. And your PMBOK guide, here's what it looks like. This is the latest version, and your PMP exam is actually based on the topics that are covered inside the PMBOK guide. But keep in mind, I'm not telling you to memorize the PMBOK guide. Do not memorize the concepts from the PMBOK guide. What I'm saying is that the PMP exam covers concepts from the PMBOK guide. Your PMP exam is not a memorization or a recite and regurgitate facts kind of exam. So it's definitely in your best interest to have both of these books as reference aids. I personally recommend getting hard copy versions so that you can easily flip through them, refer back to them while you're watching a course or you're taking practice questions using PrepCast or Pocket Prep. Plus, you'll refer back to it as a good reference aid in the future. For PMP practice questions, you need Pocket Prep because it's the best and the most affordable way to practice questions throughout your entire day. And when you're a busy professional like I am, it can feel really difficult to put in the time to practice questions. Pocket Prep makes it very easy to use because it's user-friendly with your app on the phone. It has more than 1,000 questions, And it's extremely affordable at about $20 at the time of this recording. And I'll get into more detail with how to use Pocket Prep later on in this video. With that said, let's dive into week 1 with our PMP study plan. There are 4 goals for our first week. First, get all of the materials that we just reviewed. Read through PMI's exam content outline. Third, read the Agile Practice Guide once and start familiarizing yourself with the project management concepts. Only 4 things. That's it. As the Jackson 5-1 said, ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. For day 1, here's exactly what you need to do. First, purchase all the resources that I just recommended. Do it now. I am not kidding. Pause the video, do it now, and get the resources that I recommend. The longer you wait and the longer that you're delaying it, the further that you're pushing back your PMP exam date. And I don't want you to do that. And the reason why I know this is because I myself procrastinated investing into my education and my training when I was getting started with my PMP exam. You see, I spent at least 1 to 2 weeks researching different prep materials, trying to figure out which one is the best out there. But honestly, I was wasting time. My friend, please don't make the same mistake that I did. Don't waste your time. Don't waste precious weeks and weeks postponing studying for your exam because you're still not sure which one is the best simulator or the best course to take. Take action today, seriously. And if there's anything you're not sure about, feel free to ask me your question in the comments below, and I'll do my very best to respond to you. But as I said before, all the resources that I've shared is what I've used to pass my exam, and it's what's inside our study plan. The next thing is the second most important thing you have to do. Download and physically print out PMI's PMP exam content outline. This document contains everything that will be tested on your exam. It even tells you the percentages of how many questions are from each domain. So you have here 42% on the people domain, 50% on the process domain, and 8% on the business environment. And if you scroll down a little bit downward, you'll see something in bold fine print. Half of your exam represents predictive, and the other half, well, it represents agile or hybrid. Did you catch that? And as we scroll down further, we see each of the tasks that we should understand for every single domain. For example, with the people domain, we should understand concepts that are related to managing conflict, leading a team, specifically servant leadership, which is a very topic that you must understand for Agile, supporting team performance, empowering team members, and just the list literally goes on. Please print this out. I personally like having a physical copy because then I can quickly refer back to it while I'm studying. And my advice to you is this. If you want to pass your PMP exam, you should understand the concepts that's listed inside your exam content outline. Now in the afternoon and the evening of your first day, I want you to start going through your PrepCast PMP course, specifically all the lessons that are inside Module 0. This will cover the basics when it comes to your exam content outline, the PM standards and the guides, the PMP exam itself, and understanding the mindset when it comes to taking your exam. It's very important that you approach studying for your exam in a specific way. As I've mentioned earlier, your PMP exam is not a memorize facts type of exam. For example, you would not be asked, what is the definition of an iterative approach in project management? No, you're more likely to be tested on this concept on your exam through situational based questions. For example, you're the project manager leading the project that's using an iterative approach. A situation occurs, and what should you do? And in the answer choices, you have to decide which option aligns best if you're following an iterative approach. Does that make sense? So you really have to understand the concepts and not study as if you were quote unquote memorizing 100% facts and details. I personally watch PrepCast course at 2x speed so I can get through the material faster in a shorter time period. And sometimes I would skip around so I can get to the points that matter the most. I'm giving you permission. Don't feel like you need to watch every single minute of every single lesson. Since we're just starting here on day 1 with module 0, the first few lessons, they don't necessarily cover the technical details that are on the concepts for your exam. So make the best use of your time and watch it at 2x speed. Now by day 2, you should have finished module 0. But now I want you to start going through module 1, which is all about understanding the basic project management concepts. Chances are you already know these concepts like what is a project, what are the different aspects of a project lifecycle, the phases and the different baselines. So again, moving forward, I recommend watch PrepCast course at 1.75x to 2x speed to make it go faster. As you start watching the lessons, don't try to memorize anything. Instead, focus on understanding the concept. Days 3 and 4, here's where I want you to finish all the lessons that are inside module 1. And I want you to simultaneously start reading your Agile practice guide. This will be your best friend for the first few days. This will be your first read through of the book during your first week. So again, don't read to memorize. Read only to understand. If you're new to Agile, then I recommend read through it a little bit slower so you can internalize the concepts more in your mind. So here are some pointers to help you navigate and quickly read through the Agile Practice Guide. Chapters 2 through 5 of this, they are the most important ones you need to understand. Chapter 2 has a very good section that outlines the Agile Manifesto with the 4 values and the 12 principles. Understand what they mean, because this forms the entire foundation of Agile. Chapter 3 is very important to understand because it explains in detail the differences between a predictive, iterative, incremental, and Agile lifecycle. Your whole exam is based on these different project management approaches. So Table 3-1 and Figure 3-1, they both give you great visuals to help you understand these major differences. So definitely bookmark those 2 pages. Something that I do want to mention here is make sure you understand the hybrid approach and how it's basically a combination of elements from either the predictive or the Agile approach. And section 3.1.6 covers this in good detail for you to study. Chapter 4, which is about implementing Agile, is the second most important chapter to read in this guide because it explains the role and the mindset behind servant leadership. And then there's a dedicated section that explains the composition of an Agile team. Basically, what's the role for each person? So the product owner, the team member, and the facilitator, or what you and I generally know as the Scrum Master or Agile Project Manager. Chapter 5 walks you through the different ceremonies that take place when you're using the Agile framework. So you have retrospectives, daily stand-ups, sprint reviews, backlog grooming/refinement, just to name a few. And I can't forget to mention, make sure you understand the graphs that explain the sprint burn down versus a sprint burn up chart, a Kanban board, and a cumulative flow diagram. Make sure you understand the differences between each of these because you could see a question where it asks you, interpret this chart, and then you have to choose the answer that shows the results that the chart is displaying. So make sure you understand what those charts are. For chapter 6, I'd focus on understanding the general concepts, especially the ones that are tied to section 6.3 for procurement and contracts. Now, something that's really cool about the Agile Practice Guide that you may not know is that it has Annex A3. It gives a really good overview of the Agile and the Lean frameworks. So I encourage you, read through that section at a high level. Don't memorize it. Be familiar with the different Agile frameworks in case you're asked about them. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I wouldn't go too deep into each one. Just understand them at a high level. So the Agile Practice Guide, it's a very thin book, and you can easily read this in 2 to 3 days. Now for days 5 and 6, I want you to continue reading the Agile Practice Guide if you haven't finished it, and then to move on to Module 2 of your course for the people domain. That way you're tackling one of the biggest chunks that's covered on your PMP exam. So you'll learn everything you need about managing conflict, leading teams, how to support and empower your team members, negotiation, building collaboration with virtual teams, and emotional intelligence. On day 6, now that you're really starting to go through this material faster, this is the first day that I want you to start taking practice questions using Pocket Prep. What's great about Pocket Prep is that it gives you a question of the day that you can answer first thing in the morning. Let me show you an example right here. For my question of the day, we have this question. I know that all of you keep telling me we need to hire 2 additional employees to get the work done in a timely manner. However, I am not going to do it, and that is my final decision. Which conflict resolution technique is being used in this scenario? And then we have these answer choices: compromising, withdrawal/avoiding, collaborating, or forcing. Let's select the answer for forcing and then click the button for check answer. And you see, right away, we'll see that we got the answer correctly. What I love about Pocket Prep is that it explains in detail why the answer is correct and the reason why the other answer choices are not correct. So in this case, it explains the difference between the different conflict resolution techniques. So that's confronting or problem solving, collaborating, compromising, smoothing or accommodating, forcing, and withdrawal. And at the very end of it, the bottom, Pocket Prep gives you the page reference to your PMBOK guide so you can dive deeper. So you can see, you can easily do the question of the day in the morning, right when you wake up or when you're eating your breakfast. And that's what I used to do. And then throughout your workday, during your breaks, so in the morning, lunch, and afternoon, or even between your meetings, I'd recommend customizing and creating your own quiz of, let's say, about 10 questions from any domain that you want. Ideally, it's the domain that you're studying for that particular day. For today, your goal should be to customize and create your own quizzes from the people domain inside of Pocket Prep. It's very easy to do that. Let me show you. Just click on the button for build your own quiz. And then you should see this screen. You can filter and choose only the domain for people. Now, I like to have my answers show as I go so I can know if I'm doing it correctly and so I can see the answer. So let's leave that check mark. And then at the very bottom, let's customize it so that we're only doing 10 questions for now. Once you're done, click Start Quiz, and you just created your custom quiz. Now don't forget, make sure you understand why you answer each question correctly or incorrectly because, well, that's where you'll learn the most from. For day 7, your goal should be to finish watching all the lessons for the second module with the people domain, and also to finish reading your Agile Practice Guide. And don't forget, since it's Saturday now, treat yourself out during the nighttime. Take the time to recharge, relax, and rejuvenate. I want your mind to be fully reset, where you don't even think about the PMP exam. Just take the time to relax. Now let's move on to week 2. And it's here that we really need to pick up the pace here with studying the lessons from our PMP course. And the reason why I'm telling you that is that we need to finish the course by the end of this week. Not next week, not 2 weeks later, but by the end of this week. That way we can submit our PMP application early next week for week 3. And who wouldn't want to stay on track to get that PMP in less than 30 days? I bet you would. So here are the 3 goals that I want you to accomplish for our second week. Number 1, finish your PMP course. Number 2, take Pocket Prep quizzes from each domain to test your knowledge and to get used to solving situational based questions. And third, taking 1 practice exam simulator using Prepcast. Let's start a review with days 8 and 9. The main focus here is complete the course module for the process domain. So you'll learn all the key concepts that are related to the following. You have business value, communications, risk management, stakeholder engagement, managing budgets and resources, schedules, quality, scope change management, procurement, understanding the different project methodologies that you can use. So predictive, agile, and hybrid, the project governance structure, and how issues and the different phases of a project are completed. Throughout these 2 days, I want you to take pocket prep quizzes specific to the process domain, and then to also take quizzes using a PrepCast quiz bank later in the day or at night. Starting from day 10 to day 12, the focus here is to finish all your PrepCast course lessons using Agile, while simultaneously continuing to take practice quizzes using Pocket Prep during your workday and at night. And where time is available, again, continue to practice using the PrepCast quiz bank. On day 13, guess what? We're at the home stretch and you're going to finish the last module of the course for the business environment. The good news here is that by this point in time, we'll have completed 50% of our studying, which is a huge accomplishment for all of us. So I want to give you that pat on the back for all of your amazing hard work. On day 14, this is when we're putting our foot to the pedal and we're going to accelerate. We're going to go hard and fast. We're going to dedicate around 4 hours, preferably in the morning, to take our first exam simulator using PrepCast. Now, a word of caution here. You may not score very high because it's your first practice exam. So don't be hard on yourself. Don't feel discouraged and don't give up, because I also scored very low on my first practice exam. Just remember that your scores will increase over time. What you score today is not a predictor of you scoring in the next 2 or 3 practice exams. What matters is that you do not quit and that you just keep going, because I believe in you. I know you can do it. To motivate you, I want to share an inspirational quote from baseball player Babe Ruth. Every strike brings me closer to a home run. So view every problem that you miss as being one step closer to acing your PMP exam. You're only one question away. Now, what I love about the PrepCast simulator is that the software interface makes you feel like you're taking an exam that's similar in nature to the actual exam that you take on the day of your exam. So you can flag questions, you can skip questions and mark them for review later. And what I love the most about the PrepCast simulator is that the questions are incredibly robust. After you complete the simulator, you get a very detailed performance report that tells you where your score was across each domain, your overall score, and it's completely interactive. So you can filter and you can find the questions that you scored incorrectly based on the domain. In the afternoon, I want you to dedicate 1 to 2 hours going through all of your questions. Create what I call an exam log to record the tough concepts and anything that you missed. So that way you can refer back to it later as you strengthen a lot of your weaknesses. So for example, if you're a little bit more weaker on the Agile ceremonies, then write that down in your PMP exam error log. And during the nighttime, since this is a Saturday, treat yourself for all the hard work that you accomplished. Relax and take a break. Now we're into week 3 with a 30-day study plan. We're halfway there, my friend. And by this point, I want to encourage you that the light is so close at the very end of the tunnel. You've already taken your first practice simulator and you finished your PMP course. My friend, that's a huge accomplishment and you are winning. The goals for week 3 are as follows. Take 2 practice exam simulators, submit your PMP application, read the Agile practice guide a second time, skim through the PMBOK guide. Make a note here that I am not telling you to memorize or study it in detail, but to read through it to understand the basic concepts. And then, finally, to continue taking practice questions with Pocket Prep and PrepCast Quiz Bank. So day 15, you're going to work on these 3 things today. In the morning, you'll dedicate time to take your second practice exam simulator. And in the afternoon, you're going to review those questions and the answers and keep adding them into your exam error log, those concepts that you're struggling with. And during that same evening, I want you to start drafting your PMP application. Go directly to PMI's website, create an account if you don't have one yet, and start filling out the application to take your PMP exam. You can save your draft, quote unquote, online, but what I recommend is to open up Microsoft Word or a Google document, right? And draft your project description using your own Word file on your computer. That way you can easily edit it, make changes, and include everything that PMI is asking you for. So make sure you address these 5 areas for each of your project descriptions on your application. The objective of your project, the outcome, your role in the project, which should reflect that of a project lead, a project leader, or a project manager. Do not put that you are an individual contributor or that you're like an engineer or analyst. That is not what you should put. Put project lead or the roles that I mentioned earlier. And then you're going to talk about your responsibilities with leading the project across the 5 phases of initiation, planning, monitoring, controlling, and closing. And lastly, you'll include a brief statement of your project deliverables. If you need help writing your PMP application, I have a free course that shows you how to do it, and you can check it out using my links in the description bar below. On day 16, the main goal here, your main focus, finish drafting your PMP application and then submit it online to PMI. You need to submit your application on this day so that it gets approved by PMI by the end of next week, which is week 4. Let me share with you my experience. When I submitted my PMP application to PMI, mine was approved in less than 1 week. So that's typically the turnaround time for PMI to approve it. For days 17 and 18, I want you to reread the Agile Practice Guide a second time and start refamiliarizing yourself with all the different Agile concepts. Remember, a large majority of your exam will consist of questions that test your Agile knowledge. So be prepared. I'm giving you the warning ahead of time. And throughout your day, continue to test yourself with practice questions using Pocket Prep and PrepCast Quiz Bank. Now for days 19 and 20, I want you to start skimming through the latest version of the PMBOK guide. It's not very thick, but again, a huge emphasis on skimming it. I do not want you to read it to memorize it. Do not memorize, but make sure you're familiar with the concepts that correspond to PMI's exam content outline. And at last, now we're finally on day 21, which we'll dedicate to taking our 3rd practice exam simulator with PrepCast, and then using that entire afternoon to review your questions and your answers. Again, make sure that you continue updating your exam log as like a database that has all the concepts that you're struggling with. By this point, you're officially 80% of the way with getting ready to take your PMP exam. How does it feel to be so close to that finish line? I'm here for you, and this week is going to feel like a sprint. You're going to feel tired, and you might feel a little bit overwhelmed and stressed out. But as Theodore Roosevelt once said, believe in yourself that you can, and you're halfway there. So here are the 5 goals for week 4. Finish skimming through the PMBOK guide. Increase the number of practice questions that you're studying. Obtain approval for your PMP application so that you can schedule your exam. Review your exam error log. And last but not least, take your final exam simulator. Through day 22 through day 24, I want you to dedicate time to complete skimming through the main concepts that are inside your PMBOK guide, if you haven't done that already. Now, during your week breaks, continue taking as many quizzes as you can using Pocket Prep. And then at night, take additional practice questions using a PrepCast Quiz Bank and then Pocket Prep's questions. And you'll see this constant cycle of practicing questions, reviewing your answers, and then studying them, why you score them correctly or incorrectly. That will get you into the mindset of solving PMP-based questions. And by this point, the scores on your quizzes should be increasing over time, and you might be seeing scores of at least 70% and even 80% or higher. If you're scoring 90%, my friend, you're doing an incredible job. And this is all a great sign that you're on the right track to passing your PMP exam. All you gotta do is take one step foot in front of the other and let's keep going. So on day 25, this is when you'll likely hear back from PMI and they'll tell you that your application has been approved. For me, I had to physically log into my PMI account and I had to go into my dashboard to see if my application was approved or not. This might be the same for you, so I'd encourage you to check your dashboard or the certification section in your PMI account as you wait for updates on your PMP application status. Now, once your PMP has been set to approved, then go ahead and immediately schedule it to take your exam for day 30. If by this point you feel like you're not scoring very high in your exam, then by all means, take more time to study, to prepare, and take your exam at a later date. Schedule your exam at a later date that feels best for you. But for the context of this 30-day study plan, we're going to set our PMP exam date for day 30. Now, throughout days 25 up until day 27, I want you to keep up the routine with practicing questions using Pocket Prep and Prepcast. And of course, make sure to review all the concepts that you're struggling with. That will be the key to your success. So for example, you're having trouble remembering when to use different risk response strategies like escalation, avoiding, transferring, mitigating, and accepting risk. Well, then make sure you refresh your knowledge and include it as part of your exam log. On day 28, this is when you're going to take your last and your final PMP simulator with Prepcast. To fully prepare yourself, treat this practice exam as if you were taking your actual exam. If you can, I'd recommend taking it at the actual designated time of your exam. For me, my PMP exam was scheduled for around 8 a.m. in the morning. So I took all of my practice simulators around this time slot so I got into the mindset and the timing of everything. It just physically helps adapt your body to it. And during the afternoon, review all of your answers and diagnose where your weaknesses are. Now here comes week 5. On day 29, I want you to do nothing else but relax and recharge. By this point in time, you have already done all of the studying that you can do. Quite literally. Honestly, trying to cram studying over the next day won't really do you any good. And for me, with my experience, when I took my exam, I took the entire day off and I just relaxed. So just remember, you already know everything that you need to pass your exam. It's all in here. And if you feel the urge to do any kind of studying, then the maximum that I would recommend to you is just quickly go through your exam area log. But really, do your best to relax and just take a break. Give your mind the time to not be stressed out. You want to come into your exam completely energized and feeling fresh, feeling like you can accomplish anything that you want on the day of your exam. So now, after that day is over, we're at day 30. This is the day that you've been waiting for, your actual exam. If you will give me the next few minutes of your time, I will share with you every single detail so you have the best test taking strategies on the day of your exam. Remember, you got this and you already know everything you need to pass your PMP exam. For me, my actual exam was scheduled for 8 a.m. in the morning, so I had to wake up early. So I ate a hearty breakfast of oatmeal and a banana. Do what works best for you. Now, there are a total of 180 questions, and you're given 230 minutes to answer all of those questions. So that's roughly about 4 hours. Yeah, it's a long exam. It's like watching 2 movies back to back, not really taking any breaks. It's long. So it's important that you pace yourself and you don't burn yourself out when you're taking the actual exam. Don't get too tired and don't get too mentally drained during those actual 4 hours. Now, there's one thing you must know. You're given 2 10-minute breaks during the actual exam. The first break appears after you complete the first section of questions 1 through 60. And the second break, well, that appears after you finish question 120. Remember those 2 breaks. Do yourself a favor and take both of the breaks. For me, I wear glasses and I hate, with a complete passion, looking at a computer screen 24/7. My eyes they feel sore and I get exhausted faster. So I use those 2 breaks to walk around, stretch my body, and go to the bathroom. Plus, it even helps your blood flow throughout your body so you feel just a little bit more re-energized and charged. But once you finish reviewing each of those sections and you hit the submit button to take your break, just remember this. You cannot return back to questions from the previous section of the exam. That's very important and something that you must keep in mind. Now, in terms of pacing yourself, I set a goal to answer each question in about 1 minute. That leaves you time to go back and review the questions for each of the 3 sections. One of the most helpful strategies that helped me out the most is what I call my 10-second rule. If after 10 seconds, the question is too complicated, it's too confusing, and you can't figure out what the answer is, then flag the question and move on to the next one. I'm giving you permission to skip the question, but make sure you flag it. Then at the very end of your first section, go back and review all of your flagged questions. Usually in about 10 seconds, you can quickly skim through the question paragraph and the answer choices. And you can tell if this question is really difficult or not. If you really think it's that difficult, in those instances, flag the question and move on to the next one. Very, very simple strategy, but it helped me on the day of my exam, so I wasn't feeling so stressed out or overwhelmed. Now, the strategy that I used when I was solving questions on the day of my actual exam was like this. I quickly solved these questions as fast as I could in less than 1 minute. If I didn't know the answer, I immediately flagged it and then I moved on. So the strategy I used is kind of like the approach that the swimmers use when they're in the Olympics. They dive into the water head first and they full on sprint, doing the freestyle or the butterfly, and they're taking breaths along the way. They just keep moving forward. They push themselves to the end of that wall and then they come back and rinse and repeat. But they're sprinting. That's the same approach I recommend to you. Sprint until you hit that first end of that first section or the second section or the third section. Because once you get stuck on one question and you spend 5 minutes on it, you're going to lose precious time. Those precious seconds, which then turn into minutes, and you'll start to feel discouraged. If you don't know the answer, then flag it and come back to it later. If you use any of these strategies, you should finish your exam in less than 3 hours and you'll still have enough time to spare. Now, once you click on that final submit button on the third last section, take a deep breath, relax, and breathe. I cannot emphasize how important it is to breathe during this exam. It sounds funny, but I'm genuinely being dead serious here. Breathe and really savor that moment, because this will change your career forever. And in a split second, your screen will automatically tell you if you pass your PMP exam or not. Imagine seeing those words flashing on your screen. Congratulations, you have officially passed your PMP exam. How would you feel knowing that you finally earned your PMP certification? My friend, I know you can do it because I have done it, and thousands of other people have used these same strategies to score above target. So with that said, let me share with you 3 of my secret strategies to help you ace your PMP exam on your first try. First, there is no need to memorize process scripts and formulas. Do not spend your time memorizing facts or formulas. It's just a waste of your time. Don't make the same mistake that I did. As I've said before many times in this video, your PMP exam tests your knowledge with a majority of situational based questions. So you wouldn't be asked, what is the process group that is X, Y, and Z? If you're worried about earned value analysis, I honestly would not stress out about it. A lot of people ask me this question, so I want to break it down and demystify it for you. As long as you understand how to interpret the meaning behind the results for CPI and SPI, then you're going to be fine. So for example, if a CPI, or cost performance index, is above 1, then the project is under budget. If it's less than 1, then your project is over budget. And there's a very easy way to remember this. Just think, if it's negative, then it's bad. So we'll be working over budget, which is not good. It's negative. Similarly, for SPI, or your scheduled performance index, if your SPI is greater than 1, it's positive. And it's a really good thing. So our project is ahead of schedule. But if it's less than 1, then my friend, it's negative and our project is behind schedule. Does that make sense so far? If both SPI and CPI equal 1, then our project is on schedule and on budget. So key takeaway here is, if it's greater than 1, then it's good. If it's less than 1, then it's bad. It's very bad. Now, my second strategy is to focus on learning and understanding Agile. If you're a complete beginner in Agile, then go ahead and read the Agile practice guide a minimum of 2 times, and then supplement your learning with your PMP course and the PMBOK guide. This is a strategy because I don't want you to focus your efforts on only understanding the traditional predictive waterfall approach. You must also master the concepts around Agile and the differences between predictive, Agile, and hybrid. If you don't know those differences, this will make your exam a lot more challenging and more difficult for you. So make sure you understand those key differences. And by the way, make sure you can also interpret the meaning behind a sprint burn up and a sprint burn down chart. And my third and most treasured strategy will help you solve your PMP questions faster. Whenever you see a situational question, act like you're the person in that situation. Would you really act like the way PMI describes it in the answer choices? For example, would you really escalate to management to get their advice about an issue? Just think about it for a second. Would you really do that? Would you immediately escalate to your project sponsor first if there was a delay in your schedule? Remember, your sponsor in real life is typically at a senior manager or a director level. Shouldn't you first brainstorm it with your team or understand the situation first before you share the news with management and your sponsor? Just pause and think about that for a second. Do you see how I'm thinking through the scenario? So think about how you would act in that situation if you were the project manager in charge. Follow best practices and you'll have that gut instinct that's telling you which 2 answers are obviously incorrect. On most questions, you can eliminate at least one of them or even 2 incorrect answer choices because they're obviously incorrect or they just don't make any sense. So use the process of elimination to narrow it down from 4 to 2 answer choices and pick the best answer choice which solves the question that you're being asked. Remember, you're trying to find the best answer which solves the question you're being asked. If one answer is like, it's okay, but then the other answer choice is more logical and actually makes the most sense to you, then trust your gut instinct. Trust yourself. If you follow this one strategy, you'll solve your situational based questions much faster and you won't feel as stressed out during your exam. To guarantee your success with passing your PMP exam, you need to practice questions daily. Please watch this entire playlist of videos to practice and learn how to solve PMP questions, and I'll see you in the next video.